So everyone right now, the first presenter, Thomas Harris, is ready for his presentation, and his supervisor นะครับคุณปกรณ์ is like in the room as well นะครับ so welcome นะครับคุณปกรณ์ to the presentation for Thomas on his cooperative education ครับ so Thomas ครับ if you are ready please start ครับ
Thank you. Can everybody see my screen? Well,
yes.
Okay. Yes. Thank you. So I'm here to share about my internship experience, I believe, of which I internship at Agoda, and I applied for a back-end position. So about me, as Ajay mentioned, my name is Thomas Harris. My full name is listed in front of you. I'm a fourth-year computer science student and with a minor in applied mathematics. I am from and still staying in Chiang Mai. In fact, I took my whole internship experience while still in Chiang Mai. Yes. So I joined the Agoda Extranet team, the ICCS team, which is a place where if you have a deal with Agoda, you can list your hotel on the ICCS and change things on your hotel on the website using this tool. Okay. So first thing I'd want to talk about is Agoda culture and core values, as it's one of the first things I saw when I got into orientation for Agoda. I was introduced to Agoda culture. As you can see in front of you, it says take ownership, measure, and experiment, move fast and be the best. I feel like Agoda really takes these things kind of seriously. Measurement, especially as after experiencing the coding and the repository that I was given to work on. There's a lot of experiments to do and to make. And as well as listed almost everywhere on the website, they like to mention about how many nationalities and professionals they work with. And I truly feel like Agoda is very diverse, and I did get to meet a few different nationalities while I was there. Okay, so what did I work on? I worked on 8 sprints. The typical work structure would be that I would be given work by my supervisor, and then I would meet with my supervisor and the other interns to give updates or ask for help during a stand-up meetings, which is a meeting we have every morning around 8 to 9 p.m. I think, 9 a.m. sorry. And once I've finished the work, I then pass it to a QA engineer for checking. And then once the code is finally up to standard, I push it onto the website. Yes. And how these things happen will be explained in the next few slides. So my first 2 jobs were these 2, which I have blacked out a few of the class names and functions because I was scared of NDA agreements. Yes, so these 2, which was a great introduction into what A/B testing was. So we learn a lot about, we have to do a lot of A/B testing, which is a way to split traffic, to test new code and new methods. Basically, A would be the old way and B would be the new way per se. And if whichever method is the best is the one we keep. And so yes, I got acquainted with stand-up meetings. But with A/B testing, we had to use something called Calculon, which is a way to split traffic. And we were given work through Jira and then had to help test it through TeamCity. So I'll explain what those 2 things are, Jira and TeamCity. Jira basically looks like this. If you're given work, you'll be given something that looks similar to this. We can have a priority rating right here. It can be very high priority or low priority. Typically, I was given low priority, which means that it's not very important at the moment. It can be done. And our open issues are on the other side, which is all the works we were given, pretty much. So if you're given work, most likely it would look something like this. And then here is what TeamCity would kind of look like, where we would push our code onto the branch of one of the GitHub, and then we would test it on TeamCity, see if it passed all the checks that were written in the testing code. Yes. Yes. And TeamCity, of course, you can also check for the differences made to see what changes you did in case you couldn't remember when you were coding. And as I briefly mentioned above, A/B testing, we can see it very explicitly here when we run the website we can literally change the variables on the website to see A and B and see the differences when we type in the values. Okay, so the big project I was given right away after those two problems is something called SMAPI migration. So YCS-WCF migration. Some things were too tightly coupled. We were trying to move things from all these services to one gateway. And my initial job was to scan for functions that we plan to migrate. And then after we scan and then make all the jobs for those functions, we then migrate all those functions from the YCS or WCF, I'm sorry, to a secondary layer web API gateway. Yeah, so right away after I scanned all the functions, I was given a bunch of works. Oh, I accidentally listed a name. And yet again, still doing the same problems. Of course, this is where one of the problems were listed, where we had to change how the rate plans were adjusted, and in which case we could literally see where B and A was. Yes. Okay, and with this new big problem, we were often just working with the pre-made gateway endpoints. So we can just literally migrate from the current WCF to the already made one by other engineers. But sometimes we had to update them. And this is one of the problems where it took me a long while and it took a lot of adjusting to. It is the very last problem I worked on. So it required to update the API. So in this one, it required me to get used to two different repositories, which we both had to install, which might sound weird, but we had to install a repository and use them independent of each other, but then update the other one after the other repository was updated. So when creating a new endpoint, I had to get used to Postman, ASP.NET, Docker, NuGet management, which all these technologies I've never used before. And then after that, I had to go back to the old endpoint and then update NuGet and upgrade to the newer versions. Yeah, so you can see the two kind of names I had to use to extranet and YCS on two different computers, kind of the deal I was trying to get across. Okay, so yeah, as I mentioned above, Docker, Postman, GraphQL, I had to use all these new technologies. It was very fun to learn, yet kind of stressful. Soft skills. I had to learn to rely on teammates. I had to learn to rely on superiors. And I had to learn to be more direct in my approach for asking for help, which took a bit of while to get used to. I feel like if you are like me, or any student listening, who tends to be a bit cocky, where you tend to not like to ask for help, I strongly recommend you get over that, because the team is truly trying to help you and they kind of just want to get the work done and move on. They have deadlines to reach. So yes, challenges. I had to learn a lot of new techniques in C#. C# is a language I haven't coded in a long time. So I had to learn to create test cases and mocking them. Luckily, if you have a repository, you can look at other people's code and you can see how they do it. And I often recommend you do, because often they will probably do best practices for that. And you can kind of just look at them for examples. You have to balance life and internship work, which was getting a lot harder as time went on. Especially now during COVID era, when you guys have to get vaccines and all this, you have to make sure you have a perfect balance. I had to get used to new software I've never used before or understood. I've never really understood internet technologies that well, which was ironic that I joined one. And yeah, so it took a lot of learning. It's a big learning curve, but you get done and you ask for help, and trying to be consistent yet fast. So in Agoda, they do have a core value of being fast, but I feel like you also have to be consistent. You have mistakes, but once you learn them, you try not to repeat them. Yes. Is that it? I believe that's it. Thank you.
Okay, so Thomas ครับ I'm just wondering ครับ how many teammates do you have
I just had one teammate.
just one teammate right apart from your supervisor right
Apart from my supervisor, yes.
okay so and how frequent do you have to communicate with your teammates
I communicated with her quite often when I needed help. I communicated with her quite often. But at the same time, she's also working on her own problems too. So I try to be understanding and not push her too much. So yes, I'd say around like once per week or so, once or
per
twice
week
per week.
so did you go to work at the office or most of the time you work from home
I did not go to work at the office at all. I worked at home the entire time.
okay so 100% right work from home
Yes.
okay so that means you don't see your supervisor nor your teammate personally I mean yeah physically right
No, I did not.
okay all right okay so and just wondering a little bit นะครับ so how frequent do you have to report like a presentation to your supervisor during your time for cooperative education
I had to do a final presentation, a YCS review, um, at the very end of my internship. So only one time. Yes.
okay okay ครับ right okay ครับ so that's all for me นะครับ I'm just wondering that for the audience do you have any questions would you like to know from Thomas for his presentation all right okay so if you don't have any question for Thomas นะครับ okay Thomas thank you for your presentation นะครับ
Thank you
on
so
your
much.
cooperative education ครับ